Mr Speaker, this House does join with Eric Roy in sending our condolences to the families of those who lost their life on the Easy Rider last week, and I thank the member for raising that matter today. And I want to start off by congratulating Eric Roy for bringing this bill to the House, and I think he shows what a good local representative can do. In fact, I think he probably should be the next minister that comes into the Cabinet following the resignation of Nick Smith today. Eric Roy has the experience, he has the integrity to make a very good minister, and perhaps he'll get that opportunity. But he is well known for supporting local activities. Some members come into this House wanting the title, others come in to work hard in their electorate, and I just want to say Eric Roy is one of those. But I do take exception with him over one thing that he said, that this is a very unique bill for a unique part of New Zealand. And I'm sure he hasn't forgotten that I represent a very unique island in New Zealand, the Chatham Islands. I have been the member there for 16 years. And the Chatham Islands is an island that has fewer people on it than they do down in Stewart Island, and they have very similar issues to the people of Stewart Island. You see, people have discovered the Chathams, and increasingly people are travelling there to visit it. But they also have the same problem of a very low rating base and a very little ability to raise funds as a local authority. They have high cost of electricity, very poor roading, they have high cost of shipping and so on. So when we look at this bill, Mr Roy, I'm saying that it isn't unique. It is a bill that could be applied to other parts of New Zealand, and particularly when they face the issues of being able to raise enough money to invest into infrastructure. Now, I think it's going to become a whole lot harder under the local government reforms that we've just had announced by the Minister a couple of days ago, because with capped rates in areas like the Chathams and small local authority areas like the West Coast and others, the ability to raise additional revenue is going to be very difficult indeed, and therefore unable to invest into much needed infrastructure. So the idea of a levy is one that has been thought of by Southland District Council, good on them, but I'd say to the government, maybe it's time to listen to the former Minister of Tourism, the member for the West Coast, Damien O'Connor, who raised in his second reading speech that if we're prepared to put a levy or a tax on for Stewart Island, why don't we consider a levy or a tax on all visitors coming to New Zealand that could then be shared with councils around New Zealand, particularly those with low rating bases that are unable to raise enough revenue to put into the infrastructure that they need. Having said that, Mr Speaker, Labor supports this bill. We had some concerns with it when it went to the Select Committee, but most of those concerns were actually ironed out with a very good Select Committee process. And so now, after a lot of frustration, particularly by the Mayor of Southland District, Fran Akano, who got quite irate when I read newspaper reports about the delay in terms of getting this levy through and the long process of it happening, I know that it's going to be welcomed by the people of Southland, and I'm certainly going to take up the member's offer just to mention his name when I go over to visit the Stewart Island. You see, Stewart Island, like lots of small places in New Zealand, is a popular tourist destination. 19 cruise ships, I think the member said, something like 40,000 visitors arriving down in Stewart Island. And I read somewhere that one small outlet on the island served 400 cups of coffee in just 4 hours. Now, that mightn't sound much, but when you have very small rating base, very small small business people, then it is difficult for them to be able to provide everything that might be needed with tourists coming on the island without additional help from a levy such as this. So, Mr Speaker, we support this bill. I'm pleased it's happening for the member. But let's not forget the other communities around New Zealand who have growing number of tourists, low rating base and inability to raise the capital for a lot of infrastructure that would in fact bring even more jobs and opportunities to their area. And I would hope that Eric Roy would now take up the challenge of talking to his Cabinet colleagues and saying, what about a visitor levy from those who come into New Zealand that could be shared across those councils that are providing very good services in their local areas.
I call the honourable member